Is weightlifting a waste of time? Is John Jaquish an actual doctor? Or is he just an AI generated image? If you've got big dreams and bad genes, you're in the right place. Bromley shirts are available at barbellapparel.com. Link in the description. We got a doozy today, guys. I'm going over John Jaquish. I feel like I need a dental dam to say that. We're going over the guy who's as slippery and slimy as his last name, the self-described Tony Stark of the fitness industry. Jesus, hasn't the Marvel Universe suffered enough? Do we really have to further taint the legacy of RDJ's Tony Stark? This guy's a self-described scientist and innovator. You might know him from his cringely titled Amazon bestseller, Weightlifting is a Waste of Time, So is Cardio, and There's a Better Way to Have the Body You Want. Please, John, tell me more. Now, if you saw this and your gimmicky bullshit meter started going crazy, well, let me put your doubts to rest. See, Johnny here is just trying to turn you on to his patented and innovative technology that replaces an entire home gym, and it can be gotten for the low price of $550. What is this innovative technology, you ask? 3 pairs of resistance bands and a 2-foot bar. Now, there have been attempts in the past to take John down a peg, and he was kind of a small fry, so nobody really paid attention, but now he's starting to grow. He's starting to get traction. The dude's already over 1 million followers. Damn, look at that pose. That's serious business. That guy doesn't mess around. So you see, he did a TED Talk, and that's actually why we're here today, because I'm responding to that nonsense. And you see that the entire gimmick of this, you can't tell if he's like 42 or if he's 67 and he just has a good plastic surgeon, but everything is about this band. It's him at the beach. It's him on vacation. It's him doing the same chest press movement with a band and trying to convince you to spend $550 on it. Then you see he's here with his lady, pictures with his lady, with his band, being a big deal, talking, sunglasses inside. And it's pictures like this that make me think that this is like a mid-journey psyop. Like, seriously, I got better renders out of the first generation of Dolly. Now, the thing is I'm scrolling down, like, nothing I say is going to sway this guy. I mean, I'm not doing this to try to like corner him or shame him or get him to change his ways. John is an example of somebody who's winning at life because he doesn't care about fitness or lifting in general the way you and I do. So he has no problem with blurring the lines, saying ridiculous shit, because look at the life it afforded him. I mean, it got him his beautiful wife. I mean, just think of how much money you have to make to have that much liquid latex on hand on a daily basis. And when I said this got out of control, we got to beat it back, I wasn't lying. This is Us Weekly. The editor of Maxim didn't push back with his Tony Stark nickname. There's a certain amount of weed growth the fitness industry will tolerate, and once it reaches a certain height, when it's insisted on itself a little bit too much, it's our job to come in with some weed killer and get that shit out of here. So given that he presented at the prestigious TEDx, I wanted to respond to it, pick it apart, and say what that means for us. What information can we pull out of the goofiness of somebody like John Jaquish?
And my first thought was, it's a mechanical problem. Bone absorbs force, and that's why it builds density. So why do we have a chemical solution for a mechanical problem? There's got to be a mechanical solution. So I went and sort of looked all over the world to try and find a mechanical solution. And what I realized was there wasn't one. So I invented one.
Barbell Medicine has entered the chat. He just basically said that there wasn't a way to reverse osteoporosis mechanically, which is of course a lie because general ass strength training does that, and it does it pretty well. The hard part is actually getting people to do it. Regular physical therapy does it, but getting a barbell in everybody's hand is one of the most life-changing things you could do to anybody as they age, because that is like a huge thing. And then people break bones, they get bedridden, they circle the drain faster. So getting people to lift weights is absolutely huge. He's not wrong. The compression's important, but saying that there didn't exist a solution is just batshit stupid.
And what I discovered, probably one of the more important discoveries that, at least in my experience, my lifetime, that was just a moment of realization, was that, imagine I'm using both hands, but I still got to hold the microphone. You're 7 times stronger here than you are here. That was incredibly profound, because if you're 7 times stronger in one position versus the weaker position, where we start off if we're doing some sort of fitness type activity, well, that means weightlifting is a waste of time, because a weight stays the same weight. No matter where you are in space, it's the same. We need something that changes.
So this cuts to the crux of his entire gimmick. For those of you that know what accommodating resistance is, you can skip forward a minute and a half. I'm going to explain it to everybody else. Essentially, with free weight movements at the bottom position, we tend to be weaker. Bottom of squats, deadlifts, presses, curls, tricep extensions, and it tends to get easier. You get more advantaged as you get closer to lockout. It's a reason why you want to be kind of upright and in kind of a quarter squat to lift something heavy. You don't want to be squatted all the way down and bent over in an awkward position. So as muscles take you through the entire range of motion. The muscle experiences the same weight differently. So at the bottom, the muscle has to work really, really hard. As you get higher, the muscle doesn't actually quite have to work as hard. If you think of something like a fly, you start out, this is a really awkward position and you get it going. But because you're moving along an arc, going up is going in. So the weight gets closer, closer, closer to you until it's very easy to support. It's the reason some bodybuilders don't even take dumbbell flies all the way in because the muscle relaxes. So if you're a thinking man, you might be like, well, we're leaving gains on the table. If we could adjust the resistance to accommodate the change in perceived effort, then we could theoretically stimulate the muscle more with each individual rep, and you would actually be onto something. That's why Arthur Jones created Nautilus systems, which people still love. However, with the application of things like cam machines, which there's a lot of them, there's also a lot of machines that don't use cams. There's also bands and chains. With the advent of all that stuff, they have a use case, but they have never replaced weightlifting. So given that this stuff has been around for a very long time, I'm very eager to hear what modern day Arthur Jones has to say about accommodating resistance and gains.
Everyone wants to exercise. Most people quit. Then they're usually blamed for being lazy. But they're not. They quit because it doesn't work. They quit because they might do a year at a fitness center and then look at themselves in the mirror and be like, well, I look exactly the same. So just show of hands, who here knows a lot of people that talk about fitness, engage in fitness, and they look exactly the same all the time? Okay, everyone. Everyone knows a lot of people like that, right? Because that's sort of how it goes. And it always bothered me. I felt like I was wasting my time by working out, but also I didn't want to not work out because that would be even less healthy. So I just kind of kept grinding along. Like, I don't really know why I'm doing this, but I know I got to keep doing it.
So he kept working out even though he wasn't getting results. He got no results. He's like, well, I guess I better just keep going. Why am I doing this? This is the most dishonest piece of trash I've ever heard in my entire life. There are a ton of reasons why people drop off, and it has more to do with psychological factors, the fact that people have busy lives, the fact that it is hard to adopt new habits after you've established bad ones, and the fact that the people you see buying home gym equipment, joining gyms, getting memberships, and buying monthly memberships to training packages, all of these people get hard sold. Just like Johnny Boy here, the entire fitness industry operates off of hard selling, and you end up broadening your reach to people that aren't really bought in. They know they want to work out, but it's the want, like, I want to work out. I think it's a good thing. I would probably be happier if I had a great body, but oh gee, I also like doing things kind of the way I've always done it. And bridging that gap is really difficult. It's not straightforward. You have to assume that with his bullshit product, a certain amount of consistency and effort is required to get results. If you graft those results onto what we already do, the idea that there is like a 0% effectiveness rate or that people don't get results, it's absolutely absurd. And it's just highlighted by how comically he was like, well, I just kept working out. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not getting bigger. I just feel like I should do it. He even's like, well, it would be more healthy not to work out. Obviously. So you're saying working out has health benefits. Jesus Christ. Guys, if I can help fund this channel and help you solve a problem, I call that a win-win. So please allow me one moment to preach the good word of Boost Camp. I tend to get a little complex when I'm writing workout plans. Tracking progress for these programs is hugely important, but options were never great. I would write these long, complex progressions by hand into a notebook, or I would carry a binder filled with spreadsheets I printed off of LiftVault. That's why I'm here to introduce you to Boost Camp. Boost Camp is the easy way to track training progress directly from your phone. Their library of programs features countless dozens of powerlifting and hypertrophy-specific programs from your favorite creators, including Jeffrey Verity Schofield, Johnny Candido, Eric Helms, Greg Nuckols, Alberto Nunez, and of course, yours truly. Boost Camp also has exclusive programs that you just won't find anywhere else. Select the one best suited to your needs and watch the sets, reps, weights, and exercises populate automatically. Don't guess at that one weight you lifted that one time for how many reps again? Have your log of training with you at all times for easy reference in the convenience of your phone. Not only does Boost Camp have a stellar product, but their support is the only reason this channel exists. So thank you, the viewer, and thank you to Boost Camp. Check it out today. The link is in the description.
I want you to think through your high school experience, was there one person, depending on the size of your high school, you might not have had that one, but try and think about one person who was so athletically developed so quickly. Like one year they were 15 and the next year they looked like they were 25. Show of hands. Anybody? Like absolute super developer people. There's usually each high school has like one of those people where you look at them, they did all the same things you did in gym class. They went to the weight room just like you. They sort of became one of the X-Men and you're the same. I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to tell you how we can fix it. It's one massive change to how we approach the human body. But once you understand it, you will never go back and you will never be out of shape if you follow what I'm talking about. So when we look at these genetically gifted people, They have something very specific. It's not the amount of hormones they have. There's a lot of people say, well, that guy was probably just born with more testosterone. No, the amount of males that have been kicked out of sports or disallowed from participating in professional sports because they had too high level of testosterone is 0. So that's not a thing. They test for that.
They test for testosterone, and they've never kicked somebody out for having testosterone levels that are too high. I can't even find the charitable interpretation of that.
The difference is in
think
where
about it. Take
the
a second.
tendons insert on the bone. Some people are very lucky in that they have a tremendous advantage. So if you look at my pectoral muscle right here, this is the origin. So everybody's pectoral starts on the sternum. Now, if I stick my arm out here, right here is where the tendon inserts, right underneath the bicep. However, these genetically gifted people, it inserts somewhere else. It's over here, at the other end of the bone.
All right, so the alarms are going off. People are outliers for a whole host of different reasons, not just one factor. Hormones absolutely play a role. So does a whole bunch of other stuff. And you can have any combination of these certain genetic factors that will make you better or worse at training. So to put it all at tendon insertions is really dumb. But then note, he said specifically, other side of the bone, the tendon insertion can connect all the way to the other side of the bone. Let's investigate, shall we? So where the tendon inserts absolutely creates a huge leverage advantage, but he specifically said it attaches at the other end of the bone. Well, let's look at an article from Greg Nuckols, who is accomplished and educated, and you should absolutely listen to. But he says, look at this cat drawing, right? This is a good example. Look at how far down the hamstring attaches right here. This is the entire cat's leg. And the hamstring attaches so low, it gets such good leverage. And it's one of the examples of why animals can like jump really high and why they're stronger per unit of effort than humans are, because our insertions are usually pretty close to the joint, which is kind of crappy for that particular type of expression. However, we don't have infinite variability in where our tendons attach. Nobody has tendons that go from here down to where a cat's tendons attach. That's not a thing. The example Greg gives, let's say you're comparing two people with the same torso length, but one person's ischial tuberosity, which is the origin point of the hamstring, protrudes an extra inch. That's the variability that we're talking about. In this example, if the average is about 3 inches, then you're talking about 33% more hip extension torque. We're talking about a matter of inches because insertion points attach to fixed structures, not to the opposite end of the bone. And you would think that somebody with a PhD would know this. So this is where I started going down the rabbit hole of where this dude was educated, and his PhD on his LinkedIn profile, he has Stanford University School of Medicine linked, which I find very interesting. On his website, it says, part of his doctoral dissertation in biomedical engineering research at Rushmore University. Rushmore University, that's interesting. Well, a simple Google search pulls up Rushmore University, an unaccredited institution of higher learning, offering online degrees in a variety of business-related fields, exclusively via distance learning. It has been described as a diploma mill, providing illegitimate academic degrees and diplomas for a fee. John Jaquish has a PhD the way I'm a fucking astronaut. Let's get back to this shit show.
However, these genetically gifted people, it inserts somewhere else. It's over here, at the other end of the bone. That gives them a lever inside their body that is made out of the most elastic material in the world, tendon. In effect, they're using what's called in medical research and sort of physiology research as recycled energy. So when they come down in like a bench press or push-up type motion, they're almost spring-loaded to come back up. Now, recycled energy, everyone here has experienced it to a small degree. When you sprint and you step on the ground with flexion of your foot, so your foot, top of your foot is coming close to the front of your shin, 17% on average of the energy that propels you forward is recycled energy. Now these genetic outliers, they have a much higher percentage and they have it all over the body. But that's what recycled energy is. So in essence,
he's conflating two different things here. You get the leverage advantage from having the tendon insert further down. What he's talking about now is the elasticity you get from having more of the entire length made up of tendon. So if you have a short muscle insertion, more of this is tendon. And there are certain applications, running specifically, where the constant recycling, yes, you utilize that elasticity. However, you don't get more leverage from that. Those are two different things. So having a short muscle insertion helps with things like running, jumping, sprinting. It's why you see tiny little calves on a lot of really good sprinters, because they use that elasticity to their advantage. But with things like powerlifting, bench pressing, and so on, you don't want that because a short muscle has a limited ability to grow and get stronger. You want the tendon being further down if possible, but you also want the muscle insertion being further down. Two completely different things. And also know they don't have it over their entire body. Having a low attachment point on one muscle doesn't inform if you're going to have it on all the others. Again, it's case by case, and there's a lot of variability here.
They are training with like rubber bands inside their body. So how do we get to perform like them? How do we get to look like them? It's by doing exactly the same thing external of the body as opposed to internal.
So the magic muscle athletes have rubber bands in their bodies, and we need to get like them by doing on the outside things with rubber bands, so they have the rubber bands on their inside, and we can be like those rubber bands. Guys, like, this is so much worse than I thought.
What I'm talking about is variable resistance. So that's the term you would look up if you were to look at the research on this, and there's incredibly positive studies. All of them are come to the same conclusion. Variable resistance is much more powerful than standard weight training. And the reason is because, and this is the definition of variable resistance, the force that is placed upon the body is in accommodation to the power capability in that general position. So, for example, if I'm doing a chest press, I hold 550 pounds here, but only 300 here and 170 here. So it changes as I move to be accommodating to what my capability is in that given position. Now, there's different examples of variable resistance. If anyone has ever seen like video from a powerlifting gym, you'll see piles of chains all over the place. And so when somebody puts the chains around a bar on the end of a bar, it's so as they come up, they're picking up more weight, and then as they come down, it's less weight. So that is one approach. Now, the ratios are not optimized or anything like that, but they'll get better results doing that than they will just picking up a static weight.
So this is what happens when you don't have actual expertise and you get a new piece of information and you get that epiphany. You aren't qualified to take that information and plug it in a meaningful way. He's assuming that your ability to apply a lot of force at the end of the movement is somehow the integral part of hypertrophy, and it's not. In fact, studies and like 100 years of bodybuilding anecdote tells you that you go through a full range of motion. The stretch position is actually where so much of the growth happens, to the point where partials at the bottom end, where you're disadvantaged, is actually more productive than focusing on the top end. This stuff has been studied, and you can go talk to any bodybuilder whose entire career and a legacy and the ability to pay their mortgage is determined on their ability to grow muscle. There's nowhere, I'm unaware of any bodybuilder who has ever used bands. Powerlifters use it specifically for either speed work, it's somewhat beneficial for that, or to get stronger at the top end by exposing yourself to more weight. But even that has a very specific use case, and most powerlifters, like overwhelmingly, don't lean on bands or chains. So the idea that you're going to take this like fringe application that bodybuilders and powerlifters use sometimes kind of, and you're going to strip away everything else and it's going to be better than this other stuff makes absolutely no sense. This is like dog shit bananas crazy. There's not a single person worth their salt in exercise science or who actually competes in bodybuilding, powerlifting, or anything else who would tell you that bands can replace free weights. That is an insane claim, and it's not based on anything.
The third category is the at-home product. Now, there's a wide variety of at-home variable resistance products. You have to keep in mind, again, 7 times the kind of weight you're normally dealing with. So you want to pick a product that has many hundreds of pounds of capability. Even a deconditioned elderly person might deal with 400 or 500 pounds in a deadlift type movement, which is for the back, training the back and the neck. So
those back and neck gains. Don't worry about the hamstrings and glutes. People deadlift for those neck gains.
And then the fourth category is one I never want you to attempt, which is just using banding by itself. Because the problem is if I throw a loop band around my back, and I go to press, my hand is twisting. If you stand on a band to try and do sort of a back exercise, your ankles can twist inward. It only takes 7 pounds of lateral force to break an ankle.
Yeah, you don't want to use bands by themselves, like a $20 pair of bands. You'll break your ankle. So use my X3 patented home gym innovative system to do it safe. Hundreds of pounds at the top end, uncharted gains, 3 times faster, carry it around anywhere. Only $550.
When you order X3, this is what comes. This is actually the old foot plate. The new one is metal. The reality is it doesn't change your training. This one also has nipples on top, so it's a little bit more grippier for your feet. But this is where the bands slide into. So as you can see, it's simply 2 risers and then a slit in the middle. This allows the bands to pass through, and then the bands are then connected to the bar. Now the bands are high quality bands. They're actually fantastically built bar. It really is. So the diameter of the bar itself is just over.
Oh, it's a fantastically built 2-foot long bar. So it basically pays for itself, guys. Now the other thing I love about this is how shitty and petty John gets in the comments, because I mean I can relate to that. Anyone complaining about this video or its contents is behaving like a small child throwing a tantrum. There are 47 studies I submitted to the TED organization as justification for my statement. How can I get away with stating that the fitness industry almost has a 0% success rate? Because I can back that statement up with published academic data. I'm presenting science that many hundreds of scientists have worked for decades to put together with absolutely no bias. I don't even know most of them, and most of the studies predate my product. The only way to argue with this is to present data to the contrary, and there isn't any. If you don't like scientific outcomes, your complaints are worthless, and the world will leave you behind. until you accept new scientific discoveries. Science is not for you to like, it just is. Accept it and excel at life, or reject it and be a loser. So on that note, this is kind of an old video, but let's see what Layne Norton has to say about these studies and the scienciness.
I went to look at this bar and I looked at the page, the website from Dr. Jaquish. I believe the website claims grow muscle 3 times as fast. And it also says that it's also like why weight training might be the worst thing for muscle growth. Okay, so, and he cites this study from Cornell where they had like resistance trained, I think it was athletes, either do resistance training with resistance bands or resistance training alone. He claims based on this study that you could grow muscle 3 times as fast. Well, they saw the group that was doing weight training plus resistance bands, their squat improved 3 times more than the group that was doing weight training only. Now, important point, they weren't just doing bands. They were doing weight training plus bands. So how could weight training be the worst possible thing for growing muscle if this study actually did weight training plus bands, not bands by themselves? So that's the first point of contention. Second point is they didn't grow more muscle. They measured lean body mass. Their lean body mass was the same. There was no difference between the groups. So the claim is patently false. I looked at the data, the raw data, there is a lot of noise, and I'm not sure how they found statistically significant differences, especially when you look at the standard deviations from the study. But I'm not going to go through and put my own ANOVA through it. I would be very surprised if it was a reasonable effect size, meaning actually like meaningful.
And there's a problem with the evidence-based side of things because getting studies that don't have that noise is very difficult. And people are inclined to look at two differences between types of training and not think about who was doing it, why did they grow that way, am I going to see the exact same results? And you have to compare that against all the other studies that have been done, but also the field that exists as a whole. If just doing resistance band training for 10 minutes a day with no weights was superior to anything else, why would every organization that has immense amounts of finances on the line not incorporate that? Do bodybuilders not like money? Do pro athletes not like money? You have billion-dollar sports franchises. Do they just not like money? Or is this guy just a fraud and a charlatan? And given that he wants you to think he has a PhD in biomedical engineering that he got from an unaccredited degree mill, I think we know the answer to that question. So that's all I got on John Jay over here. I'm done trying to pronounce that gross-ass last name. Let me know what you think, guys. Leave your comments in the comment box below. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.